Note the disclaimer, and remember that people who support me on Patreon get to see previews and high-resolution images. If you want to join them, the link is in the description below. Hello out there, this is Wake Angel 2001 coming at you with a commission for ComicKiller Dust. It is the Egg King. Okay, so two things. First, I'm a little bit stuffy, so I may sound unusual during this video. Sorry about that. And second of all, I have been working on this thing for a bloody long time. Like, a ridiculously long time. It might be the longest I've ever put into a single figure. How long? Well, I still had my old camera when I took the first pictures. That's how long. Speaking of which, I didn't think it would be so bad, because oh hey, I'm gonna make a big old Egg King figure? That shouldn't be so bad. I'll just use one of those giant robot figures you can buy at Kmart. Yeah, it's a nice basic little base toy, so I should be able to get it done pretty quick. Hey, Past Angel, you're an idiot and I hate you. Stop making promises like that. Okay, so let's get into how I went on the incredibly long journey to turn this giant robot toy into an Egg King. First things first, this toy is pretty easy to dismantle as long as you have a screwdriver. It's one of those types of things where the torso is basically a hollow shell, so when you undo some screws it comes apart in two halves so you can take the arms and legs off. It also has some electronics and ratchet components inside, so you gotta be careful not to lose or damage any parts. But hey, you know, I've been doing this for a long time. I can take a toy apart without breaking it. Although I do want to point out that there seems to be an intentional design flaw with the arms here. Like, you can see the elbows don't bend very deep. When I opened them up, I found this. It's kind of hard to tell, but there's a shelf of plastic in there that gets in the way of the upper part of the arm when you bend the elbow. I just used my Dremel to cut away a little bit of that shelf of plastic, which doesn't do anything for the toy structurally. And once I had it removed and put the arm back together again, I was able to get a much deeper bend in the elbow, almost twice as deep in fact. I don't know why they engineered it to have such a shallow elbow bend, but, you know, there you go. So, yeah, that was step one, making the elbows bend better. Then I kind of got into a little bit of a zone as I started to do things. I'm like, oh crap, I should be taking pictures as I work on this, shouldn't I? Like, every time I could make some progress with this thing, I kept on forgetting about it. Or I didn't have my camera on hand, but, okay, so, as you can see here, I've already done a little bit of the painting, and I did improvements to the shoulders. I made them big and round, just like the Egg Kings are supposed to be. Those are those gumball machine prize bubbles, which I often use when I need hemispherical objects. They're mounted onto the shoulders, and then they have you know, a dowel stuck in a pencil sharpener to make the pointy cones, which, you know, because Eggman's most dangerous looking mechs they have points on them somewhere. Alright, but I would have to dismantle and remantle this figure a whole bunch of times to make sure I was getting certain things lined up. So let's get back to dismantling, where you can see a bunch of the robot's guts and wires hanging out. This was so that I could get at the head, so that I could do some molding on it, because yes, I did use some epoxy sculpt on this as well. Jeez, I sound like a bloody cartoon character. So basically I just had to modify the jawline to look more like the Egg King's football visor type face. Fortunately the robot already had antenna, so I just had to do some embellishing. And I repainted it to have the Egg King's look. Basically the front half, like the forehead and top of the figure's head, I painted it that beige cockpit window color that the Egg King has. Although, you see the red eyes here, I would later paint them over, but not with too thick a layer so the lights could still go through. You'll see in a bit. Again, you can see I put the figure back together again to make sure that I hadn't screwed anything up, and now I had to work on the lower half of the body, which I knew I wouldn't just be able to stick those legs on because the Egg King doesn't have legs. This is where I went into a material that I rarely use. Wood. Yep. good old-fashioned wood. I'll spare you the complex mathematical equations I went through to make sure I was cutting everything in just the right shapes, but suffice to say, I filled in the hip joints where the legs originally went with this to create a tapered look. And then I, was able to paint the lower torso as well. Again, making a little bit more progress. Now, the Egg King, he does have a base to stand on. He has these 3 fins. I think they're supposed to be like rocket fins. But, in this case, they're what the robot is actually going to stand on. And again, I cut them out of the wood. Again, I won't go into the complicated maths of how I was able to figure out the exact shapes that I should make them. But once they were attached to the bottom, the robot was able to stand on its own, and it was nearly complete. At this point, all he needs are the hands. Of course, the Egg King doesn't actually have hands. He has these gigantic hoof-like things. So let's show you how I made those. A short section of a dowel and a hexagonal face piece of foam board, along with using some epoxy to fill in the figure's fingers and thumb so that they don't show very well, are the base of how I made sure that these things were long enough, because this thing is very long. And then to make sure everything is nice and lightweight, I use craft foam to actually fill out the shape. A little bit more craft foam on the facade to catch the look of the face of these things, which kinda has a whole bunch of greeble on it to make it look textured and interesting in the boss fight. And with a rather complicated paint job, I was able to replicate the look of them hands. So before we take a look at the pictures, I want to just show off the lights and sounds gimmick that the toy came with that I was able to preserve.
Alright, I just wanted to show this nice little live action video of the Egg King. So there is one reason why this thing was so hard to dismantle and why I had to leave this here on the shoulder, because of this. Yeah, totally worth it. So, yep, he still has the lights and sound gimmick that the original toy had, which is kind of cool. So, yeah, let's move on to the final picture so you can see him from other angles and conclude this video.
And there it is in glorious high resolution. Oh god, this thing has taken so long for me to build that seeing it actually complete just seems surreal to me. Part of me was starting to think that I just had this half-assembled robot sitting in my workspace for the rest of my life. Oh god, my throat hurts. It's this incredibly wildly unstable weather we've been having. It's hot one day, cold the next, frigid, then steamy. All this rapid temperature change, my body just experiences it, and it's like, nope! And then I get the sniffles and all this. Alright, I can't really talk anymore, I'm too tired. Thank you all for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it. Here's a side-by-side with the Death Egg Robot, because when am I going to have a Death Egg Robot and Egg King at the same time, huh? And we'll see you guys next time. Now that these two are finally out of the way, I should be able to get back to making conventional figures, which will hopefully be quite soon. This is Wake Angel 2001, signing off.